Hello, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. My name is Crystal Cook, and I'm the Director of Diversity and Inclusion at the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. For those who may not know, the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants consists of both AICPA, which is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and CIMA, which is the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. Having said that, today I'm joined by two of my esteemed colleagues, Sue Coffey, who is our Chief Executive Officer of Public Accounting for AICPA and CIMA, and Melanie Kanaka, who is our President of Chartered Institute of Management Accountants and co-chair of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. Woo, mouthful. I feel extremely honored to be with both of these two amazing women today for International Women's Day. But before I get started, I do want you to get to know us just a little bit better. And so besides our professional selves, who you may see every day, but we have another life that we live and all these different things that we experience. And so I want us to each share a little bit about ourselves to kick us off. And I'm going to start. I am a proud spiritual African American woman. I'm a daughter. I am a sister I have two brothers, and I'm a mom of two boys. I've been surrounded by men my whole life. Um, I'm an auntie, and I do have some nieces, not just nephews. And I'm a loyal, faithful friend to all of the people who surround me. And in my free time, you'll either find me with those friends that I told you about, or I'm on my road bike, out zoning out from the rest of the world, living my life, pretending like nothing around me affects me. And so that's what I like to do in my free time. So, Sue, I want to turn it over to you. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, hi, Crystal, and thank you, and hi, Melanie, as well. Well, I am a wife of just shy of 32 years. I'm going to be celebrating my 32nd anniversary in 2 weeks. I am the mother of two amazing young men in their early 20s. I am a sister to two siblings and a daughter of two parents in their 90s.
Ooh,
And Crystal, I'm an auntie too.
yay.
Oh, and something fun about me. I am a big Star Wars fan.
Oh,
So
I
I've
didn't
started
know
watching
that.
Mandalorian, and I love Marvel movies too. Not so much DC, but I love Marvel movies.
Oh, nice. Have you seen Ant-Man yet?
No, I have not. It didn't get great reviews, but I'm still looking forward to seeing
I
it.
saw it. I thought it was okay. We liked
Yeah, yeah.
it.
I'll definitely see it.
Great. Love it, love it, love it. Melanie, tell us who you are.
Thank you, Crystal, for having me with on this opportunity to speak to you on International Women's Day. And thanks, Sue. Lovely to be in your company once again. So, a little bit about myself. I am a 5'0" tall lady of Sri Lankan origin, of mixed parentage, a father of a late father of Malay origin, second generation from Borneo, and my mother, Sri Lankan Christian lady. So I'm a passionate and devoted Christian, a sister to one brother, and I'm one of a twin whom I lost at birth. When I was born, and I'm an aunt to a couple of nieces and nephews, and of course, my parents are no more, but I'm an absolutely loyal friend to the people I meet and very committed to what I do. On the fun side of things, you'll never see me leaving home without a swimsuit in my bag. And I'm
Oh,
a passionate water sports lover. I love water. And if you don't find me sitting at a desk at a computer, you'll probably find me in the pool, or you'll find me playing a game of badminton with friends and enjoying life as it comes by. And I love
I
traveling and
love
passionate
that.
about cultures. So that's me.
I did not know that about you, Melanie. I love that. I love it. Well, great. So, diving into the theme of today, which International Women's Day, and this year's theme is Embrace Equity. And I think the most appropriate place to start this conversation is to make sure that we all understand what equity means. We have a picture that we're going to show because I think they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I really think this one is. Actually, this was picture. If you International Women's Day has a website and a whole campaign that they're doing, and this was a picture that they provided, which I've seen the pictures. I think some of us have seen the pictures of the people looking over the fence, and they had the different size boxes under them. But this one resonated with me because they're all on bikes, my passion. And so it actually makes a lot of good sense about what equity is, which people often confuse with equality. And so I've actually also hear people say, I treat everyone the same. I'm fair. And I'm like, well, I appreciate what you were trying to say with that, but really, we shouldn't treat everyone the same. And frankly, we don't, right? We don't treat for those of us who have children, we don't treat them the same. They all have different needs. They all have to be raised differently with what resonates with them. All of us we talked about, we have siblings and friends and colleagues. We can't treat everybody the same. They all have different needs and they all learn differently and things happen. And so I think this picture, you'll see in the equality piece of it, they all have the same size bike. No matter what size they are, no matter what their disabilities are, their needs are, how tall or short they are, you all get the same bike. That's the people who say I treat everybody the same, right? So, which I get you have great intentions, but I want you to comprehend what that really truly means. And so being equitable in the bottom of the picture is we are giving people the bike that they need to accomplish what they need to do, right? The smaller person gets a smaller bike. Somebody who has a disability may get a special bike built for them. Someone 6 feet may get a ball type that's a little higher than someone who is shorter. And so those kind of things are we need to think about when we are providing an equitable environment for those around us. And so the International Women's Day theme, Embrace Equity, seeks to get people around the world talking about why equal opportunities are no longer enough. And in fact, it can be exclusionary rather than inclusive. And so kind of want to dive into our first question that I want to ask Sue and Melanie. They've had these long, fruitful, great careers, and I'm sure they've seen a lot. And so I guess I first want to get their insights on what embracing equity means to them. So Sue, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Melanie.
Okay, sure. And thanks, Crystal. I guess to me, when I think about equity, it means that in a perfect world, that we are unconsciously bringing all types of diversity to the proverbial table, right? Diversity of thought is informed by a whole host of things, certainly by gender, which is what we're talking about today, but also by race and religion and sexual orientation. But it's also by how someone was brought up, whether they have a disability, you mentioned that before, what schools they attended, the strength or weakness of, friends, families, networks. And in order to get to unconscious behavior, we need to be very conscious of the differences and be very deliberate in how those differences are reflected and included in the workplace, and how we treat those differences and help everyone get what they need in order to be successful.
Love it. Melanie.
Equity for me is actually being conscious of the fact that we must embrace all, taking into consideration their differences and their different skill sets and their strengths. And it is about encompassing all of them and giving them all an equal opportunity to rise in the journey of life. So for this, you need to be mindful of where the people are coming from, what their backgrounds are, what their growing up statuses have been, what their environments they've been through, such that, and the skills obviously that they have accomplished through the way, and give them the opportunity to shine in whatever field that they are. So if you take it in the context of a work environment, as a leader, I think we have to be conscious of where their beginnings have been and the journey that they have walked on, so that we are able to give them the opportunity to rise in their future journey going forward.
I think that's really key is the word you said is opportunity. A lot of people have all the skill sets and everything they need to do the job, but they just never have had the opportunity. And so once given the opportunity, like oftentimes they excel. And that's a huge piece of the puzzle that I think we miss is that if you were not afforded the same things as everyone else around you, then you may not have the opportunity to excel like they did. And so,
Yeah.
great.
And Crystal, if I can just add, I think it's also, and the word conscious was used several times, but seeking out, consciously seeking out those differences,
Mm-hmm.
because very often people have those differences and we don't know them because they're either shy about them or they're not confident to raise them. And again, that kind of gets to making sure that you have all of those different opinions around the table. Sometimes you really just have to be very deliberate and ask questions in order to understand. And Melanie, I think you really touched on that very well.
Yep. And I think too, difference, to put a bow on it, differences are different perspectives, and different perspectives are needed. And everyone sees things different, and you should have all those voices around you. So,
Absolutely, Crystal. And I think as a leader, we are called upon actually to harness those differences and actually to reach out and see those differences in people. If you are blinded to the differences, then there's no way that we can foster equity in the environment. So I think there's an onus on each one of us who are leaders to actually be able to reach out and see those differences. If you don't see the differences, you will never know them. And then you won't be able to give them the opportunity that they require, the equal opportunity that we just spoke about.
great. So there are people who may not even realize that they aren't being equitable. So I think you both said as you've been leaders and you've seen some things, and so can you maybe share? Have you seen situations where people thought they were being equitable but they weren't, and kind of maybe this will help bring some awareness to those who may not realize that their practices may not be the way they should. Melanie, let's start with you this time.
So I think Crystal, what really is important is, in different spheres they say, okay, fine, we form a team together. We form a team that is diverse, that is equitable, and we choose people from different walks of life, from different backgrounds, from different geographical dispersions, and we form this team because we feel that we want to give everyone an equal opportunity. And one of the citing examples that I can bring is whenever we try to form a committee in a voluntary environment, we try to put a team together in a place of work, we want to make sure that we've got the female, we've got the male, we've got the different cultures that are available in that particular place, we've got them all, we've got the geographical dispersion, all of that. But what we fail sometimes to realize is that we may not see that some of them have differences within that body. So these are things that actually make you stop and think. And I love the whole thing about equality does not mean equity. Uh, so equity is actually making sure that we encompasses those differences and we cater to those differences.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, I'll just to add on to one thing that Melanie said, and then to maybe add a new one. So, Melanie, you brought up committees and making sure that you have diversity on committees, and you used some great examples. It's in men and women. I'd also say that it's really easy to fall into the trap of always putting the same people on committees because they're a known quantity. And I think making a conscious effort to try new people who have new ideas, who may not have experienced the same things that those other people have consistently experienced, I think could be really interesting and should be a strategy. The other thing, Crystal, I've seen Probably more times than not. And I will say, probably earlier on in my career, I don't think it's done so much anymore as women, and maybe it is, and I'm just not seeing it, women being passed up at firms, not for promotion, but for participation on the good clients in lieu of men. And when I say the good clients, it could be, those clients that are really high profile with meaty issues that frankly give the individuals a different level of experience that prepares them for opportunity and promotion in the future. This is actually an example of where we as women really need to have the confidence to speak up and have our voices heard and kind of ask to be put on, clients like that.
Yeah, it's funny. As you know, we have a Women's Initiative Executive Committee under the AICPA and SEMA. And on that committee, we talk about this all the time. And one of the things that comes up repeatedly is an unequitable practice, which I would be remiss if I didn't mention today, is that people often make decisions, both men and women, frankly, for women on how they want to decide on a different path, a particular path to take. And so it may be a woman who is with child or is caregiving or doing certain things, and they realize that, they decide for them, she has kids or she is pregnant. She probably doesn't want to do this. Like I'm going to decide for her, when in fact, just ask her. She will tell you yes or no. Do not decide for her. You don't decide for your men colleagues.
Yeah, so Crystal, I'll actually give you a good story here, and something that makes me very proud to work for the AICPA and SEMA, and it's actually a personal situation. So, and going back, 23 years when I was pregnant with my second son, I was interviewed for a promotion to vice president along with a whole host of other people when I was 8 months pregnant. And actually, I didn't think about it at the time, but in retrospect, when I think about it, that was a really bold and interesting move by our leadership. And I was actually offered the position the day after I gave birth to my second son. Now, you can imagine, stressful, emotions flying, maybe not exactly the right time, but certainly equitable. And like thinking back, wow, that was a bold move. And I actually feel really proud to work for an organization that didn't make that decision for me and say, oh, well, she's 8 months pregnant, we're not going to interview her. And, oh, she just had her second child, maybe she won't come back to work.
Right.
We're not going to offer her that position.
Yeah.
Just a different perspective on how things can be done well.
Let's turn to how we support women who are in an experience where they feel as though they are not being treated equitably. And so, Melanie, let's start with you. What kind of advice would you give for, let's say it's a young professional woman who feels like she's being treated differently than she would like to be? How should she navigate that? What should she do?
So I would say there is no one size fits all, and there's no special word of advice that is blanket to all. I think they need to understand the situation. From her perspective, she needs to understand where she can go and address her needs. She should find an ally within the workplace, somebody she could talk to, somebody who's in a position that can do something for her. So I think it is important wherever we work and in the places that we are moving and working, we should understand the personalities around in that environment. And my advice to somebody a young professional who's looking for recognition, acceptance, and an equal opportunity, I think it's important that they build a group of allies. Allies can do wonders for you. You have a friend, you have an ally in a place of work who can sound you on, because sometimes these could be perceptions and incorrect perceptions. Sometimes there can be perceptions which are very real. And in order to be able to understand what exactly this situation is, it's always good to have a third eye and somebody whom you can rely, trust, and the allies should be somebody whom they feel understands the situation and is also in a position of maturity to be able to see the whole big picture, because you can build allies with friends in the small little network that you have, but not necessarily those who can see the big picture, and it's important to pick your allies. So that's what I would give as advice, because it's always good to have a third eye to bounce things off. So because you see it in a different light, in a different perspective. So just so that the young professional doesn't feel trapped and doesn't go down on a tangent down the wrong road.
Great. Sue, do you want to add anything onto that?
100% agree with Melanie.
Yep.
You know, analyzing the situation and speaking up and making sure that it's to the right people.
Right. A couple of things that I would add is that in addition to finding an ally, yes, that is always a good pathway to take. But I would encourage that young woman to have some courage, a little courage, and speak out on behalf of herself, to your point earlier, Sue, and say, go to that person who you feel may not have been as equitable. There's a respectable way that you can approach people and give feedback and say, so and so, I feel this happened and I don't feel that I was treated equitably, and I want to provide you with some education on how might you do that differently next time, so that that person can learn and grow. And then you've built this rapport with this person that they realize that you also have their best interest in mind and you want to help them to grow to be a better leader or a better person as well. And so I know it will feel uncomfortable, and we don't like uncomfortable a lot of times, but this is how we grow,
Yeah.
and how we get better and how we change dynamics. And so I think we should all take that onus upon ourselves to push back respectively to people who may approach things in a way that we don't necessarily like.
So, Crystal, I don't disagree with you, and I think what you're saying is we owe our colleagues the benefit of the doubt first.
Absolutely.
And many people may not know they're being inequitable, but I think to Melanie's point, some people may know they
Absolutely.
are.
Absolutely.
And so there is a bit of danger in that. And I think Melanie's advice was you kind of have to assess the lay of the land
exactly.
and get that third person's perspective. So, you have really the most appropriate response.
Absolutely.
So
assess and act accordingly.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay. So I think to close this out, I think the best place to end is having you each have teams. You each have worked on teams. I know, Melanie, in your non-AICPA and SEMA and association, chartered accountants, all those roles and hats that you play, you have teams. And so how do you both make sure that you're maintaining equity on your teams? And so I think in closing, that'll be a good, giving some people some tips on that they may be able to replicate in their workforces as well.
Yeah, so if I may go first, Crystal, on this one, I think how I look at it, I take a conscious view of this because I am a beneficiary of the DEI's strong agenda of the association, right? There is no way, if the association and SEMA did not embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's no way that a Asian female from a little obscure island tucked in the Indian Ocean could one day lead this great body, this Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, as its 89th president, and of course the co-chair of the association. So I know this association did embrace DEI, and I'm very conscious of DEI. So for me, at the back of my mind, I always take it upon myself to make sure that I give other people that same equity, and I build teams with diversity, and I make sure that people feel inclusive because I am a beneficiary of that agenda, and I advocate it. So at the back of my mind, I'm very conscious of this, and I make sure that I think through these things in a very serious note. And I think most other leaders who do embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion is also walking that same road. But of course, there is still much to learn and much to grow in this area. because we are all learning. I mean, this whole concept of equality and equity. I mean, lots of people would think if there is equality, then there is equity, but not necessarily so. So I think we are all learning in this journey. And one of the tips that I can give to other leaders is to make sure that you have at the back of your mind a conscious effort to focus on this inclusivity and this equity. It's hard because sometimes things miss your radar screen for sure, right? But I think it calls upon all of us as leaders to focus on that.
Great. Sue.
Yeah, I think obviously we need to be very deliberate and conscious in this area, right? Um, just a couple of things that I do and or try to do consistently when there are open positions on or promotional opportunities within my leadership team. I am very conscious about diversity and inclusiveness and diversity of thought as well, because I am a very strong advocate of having diversity of thought and differing opinions on my leadership team. And I challenge my direct reports to do the same thing as they consider new hires and promotions within their teams. I also keep a running list of what I would call up and coming talent, people that I've identified through a variety of programs and uh, activities throughout our organization. And I try and find opportunities for growth and advancement for those individuals. You know, women tend to not raise their hand for a promotional opportunity or an advancement opportunity if they don't necessarily tick all of the boxes. And so I try to be very deliberate about understanding the skills of the individual that I might not see on the face, and then asking the questions and asking if they're interested in opportunities, and then seeing if I can find opportunities for them.
Yep. Great tips, great ideas, great solutions. That and equity-based solutions is what the International Women's Day theme calls it. Coming up with those to take into account the diverse lived experience of individuals and communities is what they say. So thank you both for joining me today on this International Women's Day. It's been great catching up with you and learning even some things about you today. For those watching, we have other things going on today for International Women's Day. We have a blog, we have a podcast, and you'll see some fun social media messages out there. So please take a look and join us in the Embrace the Equity theme this day today. There's a pose that you can take your picture in the Embrace Equity pose, put it on social media, and show that you are a part of this campaign as well. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.